You guys asked us to get a little dirtier, a little deeper. Say less.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's show is brought to you by cats. First of all, let's start there. We've got the newest member
Extra
of the
100
household
views
here.
for that.
Yep. We got little Vanilla Bean here who wants to jump in on the show. But it's actually today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 of bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. We love FanDuel. We'll talk about them more in the show. We always look through the comments and we think there are some valid ones. And should we start off with the Brewers chatter? Let's start with the fact that Jackson Chourio isn't getting traded. Top 10 prospects don't get traded anymore, especially here's the thing. Milwaukee is either going to be completely uninterested in Shane Bieber or very interested because they can set up a situation where, Woodruff is out. But if you add Bieber with Burns, with Adames, they could be looking at 3 first-round picks. Like, there's a world where that, like, it's kind of like if you ever played the great card game Guillotine. The more Royal Guards you get, the more valuable they have. The more extra picks you get, the exponential value increases. But I don't think they really want Bieber. I think they would rather balance that out. You're not getting Chourio. Let's just start there.
If you want to give them, let's see, Tanner Bybee and Kyle Manzardo and Chase Water, they might consider giving you Jackson Chourio, but other than that, he's not going.
I was thinking
anywhere.
Gavin Williams and Emmanuel Clase. Like that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, Jackson Chourio is not going anywhere. There's really nothing the Guardians can offer. He's gonna be up at the age of 20. He is going to be the cornerstone of that offense for the
guy.
Yeah.
Like he looks like the next Julio Rodriguez, and it's like, what is the value of that? And but so people were like, hey, I don't know other prospects. I think it was like Everyday or Caleb Buckeye in the comments. And that's a good point. Like, we sometimes roll over things. So I just want to
follow a lot of prospects. Yeah.
Talk Sal Frelick. Sal Frelick is fascinating because he is very small, but he is a guy who was all-state. He was the Mr. Football for Massachusetts as a quarterback, even though he is all of 5'7", 5'8". He was, I believe, also all-state for hockey and for baseball. I think he was the player of the year in all 3 sports. That's the type of athlete he is. This past year, he had being called up, getting his first exposure. He was worth nearly 2 WAR over just 57 games because his defensive value was that high. He was a little bit, his offensive production was a little below someone like Stephen Kwan's this year, but that was with a bad BABIP. He walked this year 12% of the time. That's phenomenal. That's something this team needs. Stephen Kwan last year was at 9.7, and the year before that was at 9.7. Again, these two guys could work together. I'm not saying this to bring one down, but Kwan was at a 100 this year, and he had 5 home runs. Sal Frelick has not been the biggest home run guy in the minors, but he does have more natural power than Kwan, a little more physicality. He walks more. He's a better athlete. I don't know if he's necessarily a better defender, but both would be excellent defenders. And yes, Mick Google, I saw, yes, we need power. I agree. But hopefully that's Kyle Manzardo, who we'll talk about, who went deep twice tonight, as well as adding power is hard. Like, that's why, personally, I would love to see them draft for power, because the most expensive thing to add via trade or free agency is power.
Nick Kurtz.
And Ralphie is that. Like, Ralphie was a power hitter. Like, he might be the second best power hitter in the minors right now. That might be a brazen statement as I talk off the top of my head, but it might be the case. But it's really expensive to add power arms and power hitters. So I'd like to see them try to get it more. It's hard. Where are the power hitters available? I saw someone in the comments be like, oh, I think Seattle's a better fit because you can get Jordan Walker or Lars Nootbaar. They're not trading those guys. Those are starters for them next year. You're looking at Dylan Carlson. You're looking at the Jordan Walkers and Jackson Chourios of the world don't get traded anymore. That just doesn't happen. Top guys who are top 5 prospects in all of baseball don't get traded. Lars Nootbaar, who had another fantastic 2 years in a row, they refused to trade him last year for Sean Murphy. They're not trading him now. Like, you also have to realize that the game has shifted a lot since it was the 90s. Indians to trade away Sexton and Giles. Like those type of guys just don't get moved. And I don't know what power hitter is available. Like I said, if you're looking at outfielders, you're maybe trying to convince Milwaukee that, Frelick is the extra piece because Tyrone Taylor was their best power hitter in the second half. They got Churio on the way, and they have, Yelich, who's got to play an outfield spot. Or, you're looking at Leody Tavares if Wyatt Langford squeezes him out, who's just plus straw. Like there's just not. I would love a power hitter. They got the power hitter. That was when they traded for Manzardo.
Yeah, hopefully that's Manzardo. I mean, things look good there. Yeah, the thing with Frelick is, what are we talking about? It's, okay, so
incremental improvement.
Incremental improvement. So the hard part with trading for an outfielder is, what are you doing with Miles Straw? Because we keep talking about it, we keep harping on his contract, but it is going to be an issue. Because is Cleveland going to – you're not going to find anybody to take him unless you're taking up back somebody's bad deal. In which case, I don't know what that looks like. I'd have to go look for a bad deal. Maybe that's something we can explore this offseason. But
I don't think it's gonna work because he's also so beloved. Like Ahmed, and Jose were the closest triumvirate. And last 2 years ago, when there was talk of trading Jose, the talk was trading Ahmed. I remember, Zach, who was on the show last week, being like, well, he's also really close with Straw. Like, I don't see them you can't just do a straight dump because of his position in the clubhouse and what he means. Like it's going to be, I think
with that one, Aaron Savali was well respected in the clubhouse. People were like Josh Bell, and they didn't just dump them.
But they got value. That's what I'm saying.
I know,
it's one thing to get value. It's another thing to dump a guy. In
that respect, the value doesn't matter though, because you saw that there were some issues in the clubhouse after trading, and maybe it wasn't just the trading Savali, it was where they were in the standings and some of these teams, these guys wanting to try to go for it. But I disagree. I think for the front office,
but to do a trade down deal, like it's going to be hard to find that match, and then you're going to annoy your player base even more to get a guy who's not good. It's one thing if you could trade him and get value, but when you can't even get value,
there is no value to be had. No, there is no value to be had.
So that's why I think it's a sunk cost and you're stuck, because then if you're already in a negative cost, you're going to add another negative cost and risk upsetting players, then you're not getting any value from it.
Yes, you're not, but you're clearing a spot where you have a hole. It depends on what you're getting back. I mean, look what, you look at the Nick Swisher and the Michael Bourne deal. This is not what we intend to talk about. I want to talk about Sal Frelick a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you look at the Swisher and Bourne deal. They got Chris Johnson back, right? And look at the, they got Cleo Watson back for Josh Bell, but they also took on Gene Segura, who they just decided to stay home. They paid him to go home. If there is a world where you can work that kind of trade out with Miles Straw, you do it, because it opens up a spot in the outfield if you have an upgrade, which there shouldn't be hard to find an upgrade. I know everybody wants power. We want power too. But okay, Miles Straw.
I know he's expensive, and that if you're going to cut a guy anyways and pay them to go away, he works as a 26 man as a defensive replacement and run. I think he's not good, but I think it just to quite match.
Today's his birthday. If you didn't know, by the way, happy birthday,
Miles
Straw. We're sitting here to
if you're going to trade him to get, because you're not going to get that much savings, because he still doesn't make that. He's going to make like 20 million over the next 3 years, essentially. So it's not a huge amount. You're probably going to take back 15. So you're going to save 5 million for a guy who will probably be, I mean, again, Straw runs well. You can still play defense. I think it's a sunk cost. You're stuck. And if you trade him for nothing, it's just going to lead to more anger than it's worth. So he should be a 26 man, and you just don't 26 man.
The alternative is you put him on the bench, and that upsets. If you're saying he's so liked in the clubhouse, and that's a factor, then you paid him that money, and you're going to sit him on the bench to be a 26 man, to be a pinch runner, defensive replacement. That might upset him. That might upset people he's close with in there. So you're looking at issues there either way, and you're looking at you're paying him too much for that role. But that isn't the point here. The point is Miles Straw is a D. Is a D. Look at grade in the outfield. It's a D performance. Sal Frelick is potentially, it may be me an F. I don't know. Maybe be an F. I guess the defensive value is the kind of say over whether it's an F or a D.
It's an F. It's an F. Where he is offensively, it's an F because the defense regressed.
At the very least, I think Sal Frelick is a C. So you're taking a position where you're getting F level production on a grading scale of A+ to F. You're getting F from Miles Straw, and you can get at least a C from Sal Frelick. Those are incremental gains, and that's how Cleveland has to win. Like, yep. I know I'm watching the postseason, and I see the Phillies hitting home runs, and I'm saying, yeah, Cleveland's got to find a way to add power because they are not going to win the World Series with the kind of players they are putting together. I guess that's kind of a bold statement, but I don't. You see how games in the postseason are won. Power really matters in the postseason. So adding a Sal Frelick isn't going to take you from a team that makes the playoffs to a team that's a World Series contender. So you've got to find a way to do it in other areas. It's still worth asking about a guy like Frelick, who, again, going from an F to a C is still an upgrade. And you can the idea we've been saying all along, and we said this a few weeks ago, and everybody liked the statement that Cleveland has to find an outfielder to play every day that's better than Steven Kwan. And we said that was no knock on Steven Kwan as a player. He's fine. It's that he can't be your best outfielder. Well, no. Sal Frelick potentially could be a little better than Steven Kwan. Now, again, you might want, Jackson Churio would be great, or whoever. That's great. But if it's more realistic to move a Shane Bieber, I don't think Milwaukee's interested in him. But I'm just saying, if you have a surplus at pitching, whether it's Cal or Bieber, if you can get a Sal Frelick, you upgrade the position. You figure out how else you can do that, because maybe a trade like that doesn't exist. I'm interested in Joey Weimer as well, but there's a lot more risk there, and Frelick is more of a safe bet.
And I would just throw one last quick note. I know we got to get jogging, but that's also the point you have brought up many times, which is like, if DeLauder is the guy, whereas the chance he might be, you also don't want to block him. So, like, there's nothing that says you can't
go out field's wide open.
Yeah, you can't go out and add. You can't go out and add Frelick, and then maybe, again, I'll bring up Santander's name because, hey, we know Baltimore's not giving any extensions. So, there's ways to make this work where you also get some power, but it's just harder to thread that needle. But I know.
It's always about threading the needle in Cleveland. I know I saw people talking about Yelich. Yelich isn't happening. Churio's not happening. Your options for Milwaukee, if you do make a trip Milwaukee, your options are literally Frelick or Weimer. I don't see anybody else really being in play there. Let's talk about some other good bets, though, Jeff, that you can make. Oh, boy, man, if you want to get in on October baseball on FanDuel, I highly suggest making some bets on Phillies players. Kyle Schwarber's inevitable.
What's the over-under on home runs on the game today? That might be the fun thing to look at and consider with the way things are going.
Yeah, if you want to make any really good bets, do it on FanDuel in the postseason. America's #1 sportsbook. Join FanDuel today. And not only can you make some awesome bets with guys who hit home runs in the playoffs, because home runs win. You can do it while getting what's a home run? We wouldn't know in Cleveland, but you can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon to create a new account. Get in on the action from the first pitch until the final out. Bet everything from strikeouts, which also are very prevalent in the postseason, to home runs, to who's going to win the game. I'm not picking against the Phillies. I don't think I'm going to pick against the Rangers either at this point. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get a win, predict what's going to happen in the next at bat. The next Kyle Schwarber at bat might be another home run. Put it on quick bets. Head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. You can make every moment of the postseason more with FanDuel, official betting partner of Major League Baseball. Now the ALCS is back in action today from Houston. You can check out Rangers and Astros on your Sirius XM app by searching for one of those teams. All right, I think we've got through enough of the Milwaukee thing. Everyone knows I'm kind of a closet Brewers fan anyway.
In Milwaukee, Jeff, so I see it, and like I said, we'll make sure we do a better job. We'll do a better job in the future, again, of explaining why we like certain guys, and that's what we think today.
And we're also going to do here's a feature content tease too. This offseason, we're going to take a look at every team, and we're going to try to find a player or a fit in every team Cleveland could target. We'll do that probably sometime next month when things get a little bit slow. But Jeff went out and did looking for some more information. He came across an interesting article, and then he asked, hey, can we see more of this? And someone delivered. And let's also preface this by saying this is more about the process than the player, but the players we're talking about, because it's what helped us find the data on the process.
And that player is Christian Knapzceck. And if you listen to the show and are a fan of the show, you know that, let's be honest, Justin and I were not fans of that pick. We saw it and we're like, you thought, hey, maybe it'll be big under slot. And I thought, no, it's probably going to be over slot. And I think it did end up being over slot. And he is this, I believe, the smallest player in the draft by height. He had 3 home runs in college. It just felt like you could go back and listen to the draft episode, and you can hear us rant about how, like, this is just more of the same. This is the high contact, no power, questionable position. Probably going to be more shortstop than or more second baseman than shortstop type. And but so why does Cleveland chase this type, or why did they like this particular player? And thanks to Blast Baseball, just take a second. And sorry, I must have missed my mic here because it's getting all droopy. I know, so a personal issue, but they responded, and I appreciate that, because a lot of this advanced batted ball data is stuck behind curtains and things you have to pay for. And they're very quick to point out that PBR, which is the
Prep Baseball
report, has a lot of the data in there. And Kyle Bodie from Driveline jumped in, but I will say his stuff is a little bit harder to understand unless you know programming and coding. It's in
he is deep in the weeds, man.
So I went and looked at it, and I could kind of take it apart, but it's really hard. So the interesting thing that Joe Turville at brought up is this idea with Knapzceck that he has just unbelievable bat speed plus rotational. His rotational is I'm trying to think of the term. Acceleration. So his rotational acceleration was around like 33, and the MLB average, according to Blast, was 17. And the idea being like, okay, what does that mean? It means that he can really turn around and he can hit a ball really hard. And I appreciated their article. It's one of those things they talk about, Joe Ventrano, who was someone I liked in the draft, even though like that dude had a K rate that was unbelievably high, because it's just like his bat speed and power. Like that was the guy who, if you want to say who had the best power in the draft, it was Joe Ventrano. But and he was bat speed plus VA. And with Knapzceck, again, it's understanding. So what they're seeing is he had bat speed, he has a strong understanding of the zone, ability, and the rotation gives him an ability to potentially grow into league average power. The one downside I'll say is a lot of reading things up on him. There's some Tyler Freeman there, where it is, again, like Ty Freeman has really good exit velocity, but it's not a swing that is set to access it. And as much as I would love Cleveland to be the team that helps players get there, it took Yandy Diaz going to Tampa for that to happen for him. They haven't been able to help
a
Freeman.
Couple of years in Tampa. He didn't start hitting home runs right away. It took years for that to happen.
But it's like, we just haven't seen them be able to. And so when we talk about this, it's the idea of like, why did they do it? Now, I think it's also fair to sit back and be like, okay, we understand the why, but we're waiting for the success story of a player with this profile. But it is interesting, and it's not to diminish what Joe wrote, and it's not to diminish what Blast Baseball is doing. It really helps fill in gaps of information you and I don't have. And it's fascinating that he is like almost twice the league average with this. And it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, he's going to be potentially, a lot of things point to him having a very good chance to be a bench bat, which is a solid value where he got taken. But once they could start, we've seen them take pitchers and help them find more. We're waiting for them to do that with hitters.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the question worth asking here too, it's kind of more meta than just Christian Knapzceck, is why does this matter? So, because that's what people have been saying in the comments, explain why this stuff matters. So obviously rotational is a big part of a hitter's swing. Everything in baseball is rotational. Creating separation from, your front hip as a pitcher to your back shoulder. That's all that based on rotation and your core athleticism. Same thing in hitting. You want to create stretch. You want to create separation between your hips and your hands. So the fact that Knapzceck is able to generate a lot of rotation acceleration, A, it suggests he's a good athlete. B, it suggests that he just has the things you should be able to do as a hitter. And I know Joe explained also, lets him start his swing later because he knows he has that rotational ability. So this stuff matters. And the bat speed matters because you look at guys who hit home runs, and a lot of them also have good bat speed too. And That doesn't mean that Knapzceck's going to turn into a power guy, which I don't think he's going to, truthfully. He's small, and you're hoping maybe for average power. But like you said, this is why Cleveland targets these guys. This is the same thing we talked about when we talked about Chris Valaika being interviewed for manager, and could he change the philosophy and what he was given to work with, and he understood that. Is you're taking guys who all have possibly 40 grade power, or 40, whether it's raw or game power, whether it's and again the scouting scale is 80 to 20, with 80 being elite and 20 being your average Joe off the street. These guys all might have 40 power, and you're hoping to give them to 45 to 50 maybe. And yeah, it's a good question whether or not to ask if it's a feasible way to develop players, if Cleveland even can do this, because they haven't really shown the ability to do it yet. But you want to bet on good athletes. Knapzceck might be a good athlete. There's definitely some Tyler Freeman to the profile. He's an aggressive hitter. Numbers say he's a very aggressive hitter, and there's a lot of ground balls, which is concerning. But yeah, the big thing here is just you're trying to look at data like this to make your decisions. That's the whole point here. Is everyone kind of rails on analytics and data. Like, this is the kind of stuff you try to do as a franchise. It doesn't matter if you're the Dodgers, because the Dodgers do it too. They're just really freaking good at it. You're using this data to inform your decisions. So you're hoping that having the data on a guy like Christian Knapzceck points you to, okay, we think this is what this guy can do. So the data is telling us, let's give this guy a shot. And you count on your development team to make some swing changes. And Joe from Blast Motion, which measures this kind of stuff, they think that he can grow into something like that, and they think that the swing change will not affect his ability to make contact. This is, again, the same that we talked about, but it's using data to inform decisions, to make better decisions, to take guys, being able to measure how good of an athlete someone is, like being able to measure rotational acceleration and bat speed and all that kind of stuff. Bat speed is something all teams train for, weighted bats and things like that. But it's using data to make a decision and hope that it helps you improve your process and target the right kind of guys. And we'll see on Knapzceck, but it's just interesting data to have out there. I hope we can find more. Jeff did a really good job. Just kind of, hey, could we see more? Is it available? I don't think you expected such a fast response, but it was just nice to be able to share that.
Did not expect the fast response or the just the number of people who jump in, but it's definitely a gatekeeped thing. So it's nice to see it, especially because if we were being honest, and you look at the data,
we wouldn't have known before.
Well, prospect rankings to teams are not the same as what we get publicly, because we don't have the data available to us that they have, and the gap between the knowledge is never been bigger, and it's never been a bigger gap in a lot of ways. Like, you and I are part of the prospect industry, and we really enjoy this stuff, but we're operating with a hand tied behind our back. So that's why it's good to see some of the stuff getting out.
Right.
There.
We're relying on our eyes and also the publicly available data. And this is stuff that hasn't been available previously. And hopefully we're going to see more of that. And hopefully we will see more of you wearing bird dogs.
The best shorts on the planet.
Best clothes on the planet.
I love those shorts.
The chinos are good. The shorts are good. Yeah, I work from home, but I wear those shorts from home because they're so comfortable, and anytime they're clean, that's the first thing I put on. They do.
I like when I put those shorts on, like if it's a nice day out and I can wear shorts, I'm putting them on if they're clean. And then I will wear them the whole day. And listen, I record this podcast. I work my day job. Sometimes if I'm writing profiles, I'm doing multiple jobs. And then I got 2 kids under 6. I will lay down in those things, and then they become like my pajamas. Like, they're so comfortable. I can sleep in them even if I spent the whole day in them. Like, it's just, they're my favorite. Like, I love bird dogs. And then the nice thing of bird dogs is right now you get this free water bottle. I love the mug. I use the mug that was previous. I'm wearing the hat that was the previous. The secondary items you get for free are also quality. So it's a great, it's my favorite shorts. And you then get a quality bonus, which is a bonus.
Yeah, go to birddogs.com, LOCKEDON MLB, and use promo code LOCKEDON MLB for that free water bottle with any purchase. That's LOCKEDON. That's birddogs.com, LOCKEDON MLB for a free water bottle at checkout. You will not want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. And make sure you check out ALCS and NLCS action on your Sirius XM app as the series is wrapping up. I'm thinking Philly's going to finish this 1-4. We'll see. They're about to go up 2-0. All right, everybody's favorite speculator. I don't know. Is John Morosi or is it Jim Bowden? Who's number one on your list? If we're ranking off-season transactions,
Bowden. Morosi, here's the thing. So Bowden is the one guy who has banned me multiple times, and it's because I'll keep bringing up. If you haven't looked into it, he was part of a best case scenario. He was somehow completely unaware that all of his right-hand people in Washington were defrauding poor Latin American players, and
he didn't know.
If he didn't know, he quickly turned evidence on everyone and got out scot-free. So that is a really ugly thing. And then there is the fact that he also stole other people's, basically got caught stealing fake account trades, and not crediting people, and had to delete his Twitter for a while. So there's that. Now that me bringing those up constantly have gotten me blocked by him. But the thing I will give him credit for is the dude writes. He actually, sits there and produces. And there's a lot of people where I get annoyed with my athletic subscription where I'm like, people are not writing. There's not a lot of Bowdens, there's not a lot of Zachs where weekly content is a thing, unfortunately. And I just don't know how that works if you don't provide at least something every week. But he does that. And he wrote a piece today about trading for Juan Soto. And outside of the piece part on the Giants, which is ridiculous because the Padres aren't going to do that because Preller's job is on the line. There's no way he's making his route harder. Every other made sense. And he included the Guardians because, again, Cleveland could use the offense. And there is a route. Now, I think the trade he offered was silly. But, I said it when he was up there for the first time. Cleveland is one of the teams that had the depth to go out and add him. And now it's going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, the trade offer was, what did he say? It was Quan and Bieber
for and Quan. Which, here's the problem. Then Cleveland still needs another outfielder. So they trade their one useful outfielder and then don't have any outfielders. And you have to figure out a different trade for that. And I don't think that also does enough for the Padres.
I don't think it works for either side, to tell you the truth. It's not enough for the Padres. At that point, I would rather just go out and offer him the qualifying offer at the end of the year, and unless they're really desperate to cut payroll.
He's also going to make $30 million this year, which I don't know if Cleveland could take that.
Yeah, no, they'd have to kick something in. Unless this is purely a cost-cutting move for the Padres, which never know, it could be. And this is all speculation from Jim Bowden. He's not even saying. We don't even know this has happened, but unless they would consider moving him just because they want to cut payroll, I don't think they're taking this kind of deal. They could get the comp pick back either way with Bieber if things go well there, and they definitely could use pitching. There's no doubt the Padres could use pitching, and Stephen Kwan obviously is a downgrade for the Padres as well. And I don't know, Bieber. You're trading 1 year for 1 year. Yes, the Padres need pitching. They already had issues offensively this year anyway. They had a lot of issues this year as it was. But you're downgrading from Soto to Quan. So I just don't see it for the Padres. And on Cleveland's side of things either. Yes, you immediately go out and you get one of the best outfielders in all of baseball. I'm willing to say 99% that they're not re-signing him unless David Blitzer was no, I want to spend lots of money, which they've said it hasn't been the case. The payroll is not going to change under him, and it's probably not going to see any difference until they start building this ballpark village project, which the renovations have started in terms of the stadium, but it hasn't. The ballpark village thing hasn't even come to life yet, and it may not for years. I just don't see the fit. I mean, Cleveland, you could recoup, money aside here, you could recoup the draft pick by the qualifying offer in the offseason, the same as you would with Bieber possibly. I just don't know that if you move from Soto to Quan, we're already talking about you need to get a better outfielder than Quan, because Quan should be, maybe your second best outfielder, maybe your third best outfielder. Then after 1 year of that, you have to go out and find essentially a brand new outfield because you're not re-signing Soto and Quan's gone. you're hoping DeLauder's the answer. And then after that, it's like, I don't see it. I don't see it making an improvement for Cleveland for 1 year or I guess for 1 year, it's an improvement.
Yeah,
for sure.
it'd definitely be for 1 year. And the thing you also have to say, coughing the mic as everyone loves. The thing is for San Diego is they're so far over the luxury tax that they're going to be like a 4th round team for him. So they're in that situation where there is a degree of them. They will probably consider trading him if they can split one asset into 2 or 3 useful assets, because he's going to hit free agency at the end of the year. They're probably not going to be able to afford him with the other big contracts they have. And they're not going to recoup much. They're not going to get big value back. So I would not be shocked if Soto is traded. I would be shocked if it's Cleveland.
Let's just say that money. Let's forget about money for a second. If for some reason San Diego was offering you this deal, you taking it? Forget about money for a second. Is it worth gambling 1 year of Juan Soto? I mean, Bieber's gone regardless. You're losing 5 years of Juan to get 1 year of Soto. Is it going to work? Is it enough for you to try for 1 year with Soto and have to kind of rebuild your outfield, which is already pretty bad a year from now anyway? Money agnostic here.
See, that's where I'm thinking. It's like I don't want to move Quan. It's not, and I've said this. I'm not the biggest Quan guy, but this team needs to add 2 outfielders, and it's a huge improvement offensively. Don't get me wrong. Like I strongly consider it, but like this team needs.
It's not a Juan Soto away from a World Series.
No, they can't afford. Like if you could convince them of any any other the problem is it's like they need outfield help as well. I mean, if they're fully healthy, that's really their only other position of need is maybe someone to
you need Quan and Soto,
especially if they let him go. Yeah, it's like and it makes sense for Quan because they need a outfielder. Yeah, but I'd be very conflicted. I might lean yes, but I don't know. It's really hard to say. But what I can say is we want to thank and appreciate all of you for joining us on today's show. Remember, if you download daily, it helps. We appreciate all of our everydayers out there. And go Guardians, go.